Have you ever wondered exactly what top producers do behind the scenes in their listing process, hypothetically, from the moment they get a lead all the way to closing and beyond? Well, welcome to part 3 of our listing process step-by-step seller series, where you're going to learn the exact steps that I use behind the scenes in my process. And maybe you're like, who are you? Why do I even care? Hi, friends. My name is Shelby Johnson. I'm an Army vet, and I have closed hundreds of transactions as an agent, team leader, and investor before taking a break from it all, like almost quitting, almost running away entirely, hosting some podcasts, speaking at conferences, and years later, I am rebuilding from the ground up in a brand new city, along with my co-host, best friend, Ali said. We run this shit together. She's same Air Force vet, closed hundreds of transactions, also investor, agent, team leader, all the things. And also restarting in a new market in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. And y'all are listening to the Agent Goldmine, which is the show for agents who've been around the block and are finally ready to build sustainable, scalable businesses that you love for a long time instead of going hard and burning out like I did. So let's learn the exact steps to run your listing process like a machine. Let's go.
Welcome to the Agent Goldmine, the only podcast in the world specifically for real estate agents who are stuck at 5 transactions a year to help them get to 20 plus. Your hosts, Ali and Shelby Johnson, 2 EXP icon agents, each do over 40 transactions a year and interview others who are crushing it. In this podcast, you'll receive the knowledge to help you scale your business using systems and processes with our interviews and monologues twice a week. If you want to be a part of our community, reach out. Welcome to the show.
Okay, in parts 1 and part 2, we made it through the first conversation with the lead. We went through scripts. We went through the checklist and what you do before a listing appointment to prepare. We went through the appointment checklist. And last time, we left off right at the post-appointment process. At least I think. It's been a little bit of a time since we've last recorded, but if not, this is a little reminder for you, and it's totally fine. Guys, so at this point, you have just crushed your appointment. You're on a high. Your seller's on a high. You all love each other. And hypothetically, for the purpose of this scenario, we are not going to go through the process of continually following up as if you didn't get the listing. We are going to pretend you got that listing. You nailed it. You know, they love you. They want to work with you. And so at this point, which I think I went over briefly last time, but you leave the appointment, you send them a video task. You're like, guys, it was so nice to meet you. Like, I have a script. No worries. I will also be talking through this. And Ali is going to be asking questions to make sure I don't float off into Mars, which sometimes we do on this show. And you got to bring us back down to earth. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So post-appointment, you did the video text. So nice meeting you, blah, blah, blah. If they are older or if they appreciate these type of things, you can also do a handwritten thank you card. And guys, I like to put more detail in my checklists than I necessarily need or use every single time. A lot of this is about using your discretion, and there's no situation, there's no seller that is going to be exactly the same. So it does take, for you robots out there, it does take a little bit of personal, skills in identifying what the person would like, what type of personality they have, and what calls, what item is called for in that specific scenario. Okay. But regardless, after this appointment, you're going to go back to your CRM. For me, Follow Up Boss, and you are going to update it, right? So you're going to update the stage of the client into the active client role. You're going to put down all of the notes that you can think of about their personality, things you've learned about their dog or their freaking sister or whatever, because you've gone through and you built so much rapport during this listing appointment. And that's where you've really built that relationship. And you will forget. You will forget all of those cutesy little things if you don't document them. This is the power of the CRM. So get that shit, brain dump it all down. Also, you're going to write the notes for yourself. Like, shit, what did I promise that I was going to do? And this is one of the reasons why in the appointment checklist for me, I have like my clipboard and I'm scribbling notes the whole time, because a part of my process after the post appointment is to go back and figure out what the fuck just happened. I literally go through my notes. I'm like reading, there's like scribbles. I'm like turning the page to like figure it all out. But between that and all of the photos I took, this is my time after the appointment to go back and really flesh through all of them. I cannot remember if I've said this previously, but if you are like me, it is helpful to block a set of time on your calendar, either later the day or the following morning, to set aside time to actually do this. Because if you don't do it like as soon as possible after the appointment, you're going to forget. You're going to forget the vibe, the tone, the little like jokes, little, things that are important to them. So yeah, get that stuff down. And then also what I like to do right there in Follow Up Boss, I use I'm showing you my screen, but I use this background section as a place. This is a made up scenario for you guys, but this is where I go and I take the background information right here, which is for you, those of you listening, like I just like have bullets of like occupancy, property manager contact if there is one, tenant contact if there is one, access information, alarm information, if there's a lease, when does it expire, the rent rate, utilities on, like, and any other details that we decided, like coming soon date, MLS date, which MLS and live is the same. So I'm literally updating this as we go. Any other things that we decided on, these like quick reference notes, I like to paste them right here in this background situation. So every time I pull up that contact, I can see right away, I'm like, okay, like this is where we're at. This is okay. Are we on track? Little things like that, like help me remember in all of the chaos. Also at this point, I am going to, after I've gone through all these notes, I'm going to email a roll up to the seller, depending on what we spoke about. But at a minimum, you're going to, these are the things that I've talked about in the previous videos, is compiling that room by room checklist and that's one, putting together their specific timeline and game plan, like AKA their schedule, and then also sending any homework that you need them to do, which you can call it homework, you can call it buyer frequently asked questions, whatever makes more sense for you. Some people don't like the word homework. But anyway, those are the things that I email to the sellers afterwards. And we're going to go through that, an example of it right now. But Ali, before I keep going, do you have any questions?
No questions yet. I will try to keep my questions to a minimum because I know my audio doesn't sound the best. So thank you for bearing with me, audience. Back to you, Shelby. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to email to the seller what we promised, right? But let's talk about those items that I just mentioned. So that first one, the room by room checklist. So the example that I'm about to show you is probably the most that you'll ever see. It is a massive checklist for my sellers to do. And this is something that we thoroughly discussed while at the appointment, which I think is really important because if I sent this to them with no warning, they would be like, what the fuck? I quit. This girl sucks. Okay. Literally. So now you can see I sent, and by the way, when I send, as a part of the checklist, one of the things is to create a drive for the specific client. Like, so that way they have a place to upload anything that you ask, for you to put copies of your, signed listing agreement, any offers. Like, this is a shared place for you to jointly add to over the process. And then at the end, they have all the files, anything that they could ever need from you in one place. But okay. So the prep list that I created for these people in particular is extensive. Within their drive, I created a Google Doc for them. And as you guys can see, we never get a second chance to make a first impression. Oh, right. True, though. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, which is why the pre-marketing phase is so important, pre-photo day. And with this in particular, you guys can see that like I have a whole checklist for the grounds. I have an entire checklist for their primary residence, the exterior, the interior, and all of them have like little check blocks because now I can see exactly where they are in the progress. You can see they're crushing it. They're going through and they're doing all the things that I asked, which is amazing.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So as this room by room checklist, like I see like wooden bench outside and stuff like that, are there notes as to what they are to do with the wooden bench? Or
yes.
Okay.
So for these in particular, they are moving everything into storage that they are or selling, because I know their specific scenario, they are downsizing. And one of the things that, guys, this is a really good, thing for you to file away in your brain, is that if people are moving and people are downsizing, they're going to have to go through their stuff anyway. They might as well do it earlier so they can capitalize on the benefit of what that does in the showing and the photos and in getting a buyer as opposed to doing it later down the road. So, but yeah, to answer your question, Ali, yes, they're getting rid of the stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally does. And the level of detail already that you are doing is crazy good. What are your thoughts on selling furniture along with the property? Like, I know that a lot of times, like this is the biggest difference that I'm seeing between us right now. The level of detail that you have is so impressive. What I say is like declutter, and like declutter is so vague. And of course I get into stuff like, well, you should have put this away. I did not make it clear for them. With your stuff, when working with move down buyers or sellers, are you having everyone put their stuff in like the garage and then in the addendum saying like, hey, furniture for sale too, it's in the garage? Or what are you doing with that?
I paid off one of my mortgages in just 4 months thanks to the shred method. I personally use the shred method to manage my money and crush my mortgage faster than I ever thought possible. The system was simple, the customer service is top notch, and the results speak for themselves. $121,000 of a mortgage balance gone in just 4 months. I put my money where my mouth is, and it worked. If I can do it, so can you. This can not only help you, but your business as well. Help your clients not only buy homes, but also pay their mortgage off faster and build equity sooner. When you add this kind of value to their lives, you're not just their agent, you're their go-to advisor for life. The shred method sets you apart and keeps your clients coming back. So go to theshredmethod.com to learn more about how you can shred your mortgage and help your clients do the same.
Yeah. So we've actually talked about that specifically because they have this property in particular they have a basement and a whole house of Airbnb like furniture. And my discussion with them, everything's going to be different. Every scenario is going to be different. But what I was saying is that the likely person who's going to buy this property, if they have the mindset of keeping either the basement or the other house as an Airbnb, is probably going to want the majority of their furniture. They're not going to want to refurnish. Like, furnishing a property is a pain in the fucking ass. I know from experience, so do you. And so I think that selling it as a package makes the most sense. And they're like, well, what if we just decided to sell it in advance or try to negotiate everything? I'm like, you totally can, but I would like to share, my experiences with doing that. And I was like, once upon a time, I had 18 short-term rentals that I had put a lot of money, a lot of effort into staging, designing, handpicked all of these pieces of furniture, paid, top dollar for the quality. I wanted it to last a long time. And so much love and heart went into this. And then I thought, selling the furniture, people might find at least some of the value. And what I found through experience is that I would list the furniture on Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace was the best way for me to do this, I found, for me. And what I found, though, is you can't take a picture of all the furniture and be like, for sale. It has to be every single individual item listed individually. And then, which for an entire basement and an entire house is so much time and so much work. And then from there, you're going to get every single person not reading the remarks when, you say it is still available unless otherwise. They're like, is it still available? Is it still available? Is it still available? If you've ever tried to sell something on Facebook Marketplace, you know exactly what I mean. And then you're spending all day haggling with people who are lowballing and are not serious. And then when they finally do show up, they are going to offer you pennies on the dollar for all of the furniture that you care and love about. And that's just the way. That's just the way it is. And so if I were doing this over again, knowing what I know now, don't think that the time, energy, sanity, all of that is worth it in exchange for what you'll get in return. Whereas I think that if you can sell this together with the property, it makes the property itself more desirable and therefore could bring a more qualified buyer. So that's just my perspective on it. And they're like, oh my God, I've sold stuff on Facebook Marketplace before. It was fucking terrible. Like, you're right. Let's not do that. Let's just sell it all together. So that is what worked for this scenario. It's so hard to give a blanket answer for really anything in real estate, but does that help, Ali?
Yeah, 100%. And this applies not just to listings where that happen to have an Airbnb attached to it. It's any move down seller, so yeah, super helpful.
Yeah, it is really hard because people are, and I know this from like being emotionally attached to the design and the furniture and the love and care that was put into it. You are never going to get out of that. No one cares. No one cares. But what I found helpful in that scenario in particular is the fact that I had been through it. And I think that the more you can share personal stories and the more you can like help them understand what it would actually feel like, be like in those moments to try to do whatever they're trying to do is helpful in letting them make their own decision. Because it kind of goes back to like, you're not making the decision for them. You are presenting all of the pieces of the puzzle, right? And you are making sure that they understand the second and third order effects of their decision and then letting them decide. But if they're deciding something that you don't think is in their best interest, you probably need to reflect on how you explain the situation. Because if you did not explain it thoroughly as to what would happen if, what their life would look like, and then they made a different decision, it's probably on the way you explained it. So, that's something else that I want to say really on this prep list. Y'all, this took me a long fucking time. This took me a long fucking time. And I didn't used to do this. I used to outsource this. But something that I do want to say, the reason why I did this so detailed and thorough is because I did not want anything left up to interpretation. This property in particular had been sitting already for 6 months with another agent and never sold. So that is helpful for me also, or for you as an agent. I think those are actually great opportunities to come in and be able to get the seller to do everything that you want them to do in the perfect case scenario, because they have 6 months of pain, essentially, knowing that the other way didn't work. And since this is such a unique property, I wanted to go above and beyond every single detail, have my touch and like equal division, because I want to do everything possible in my power to sell it. I know that because it's so unconventional, it's going to be a challenge to begin with. So does that make sense why I went fucking crazy?
I do want to point out too that like this is also psychological in that you are now working with the client who is already in pain, and you guys are working together. Like you're giving them homework and like a lot of homework, but it's important homework, that they realize like, oh, wow, this is the direction and the guidance that I should have received from my first agent, but I didn't. And now that this other agent has told me exactly what to do, like you said, nothing left up to interpretation, that makes the world of a difference. And that is literally what sellers and really any clients need, is they need the direction and the guidance. And that is what a lot of agents are scared to do because, I don't know, out of lack of experience or lack of being like seeming like they're parenting. But this is actually something that we learned as special agents when we're interviewing people, like especially subjects, if like of an investigation, if we have them do like an action, the beginning of the interview where we're working together, we're able to end up getting more out of them. So it's like, hey, actually, can you help me move this table over like as soon as they enter? Like we've just like literally stripped them of their phone, of their keys, of everything. Like we've like checked their socks. That, oh, actually, can you help me like move this table over here? And it's like an action that may seem like we actually need it. We don't, but by having them help us, like it's psychological. It's a team effort. So in my case, like we didn't really need to do that. But in your case, it's obvious. Like, oh yeah, we do need to empty out there's a lot of stuff. So it makes sense. Anyway, yeah, I just like the way that you're providing guidance, which a lot of agents don't do.
If you're looking to change brokerages this year so you can increase your business and you want to join us at eXp Realty and would like either myself, Ali Garced, or Shelby Johnson to personally sponsor you in, so that way you have access to 2 icon agents, text the word JOIN to either my number, 914-318-4918, or Shelby's number, 859-267-3849. If I sponsor you and you have access to the both of us and everything that's 5 Pillars Nation, we have the checklist, the systems, the processes to help you scale your business. And don't take our word for it. We've had agents switch brokerages to join us that were stuck making $300,000 GCI, and they join us so they can scale. So text the word JOIN to those numbers and we'll take the next steps.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because like I left being like, hey guys, I'm going to send you a very detailed like room by room, exactly what to put where, the whole breakdown. But it was funny when I did end up sending it over, they were like, wow, we knew you were thorough, but like, wow. But if I were a seller, I would honestly super appreciate it. Like I want someone to tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. You're the expert, not me. I'll do it, So anyway, that is the first thing that I do. And then the next thing that I do that I talked about is come up with a schedule, which I also upload in the Drive for them. And so basically, like, what they're doing now is they're doing the home prep list that we just talked about. They are doing their find and upload list, which I'll go over in a second, the listing paperwork, which I sent them, and the disclosures times 2, because there's 2 different houses. So we're doing 2 different disclosures because it doesn't matter. And then we have their schedule laid out so they know what's coming. January 29th, we're doing a pre-photo walkthrough. Guys, I think this is really important if they have a lot of work to do to get the home ready. Yeah, I've seen this. Actually, I've done this, which is why it's a part of my process now, is you're like, hey, like, seller, are you good to go? We scheduled photos on this day. I just want to make sure that everything that we talked about you doing ahead of time is done. And they're like, yes, 100%. It is great. Good to go. Photographer goes out there. I show up and I'm like, because something was lost in translation. Their idea of done is not the same. And so I do think it's really important. And guys, by the way, this is a high price point listing. I'm not saying that you should do less for a lower price point, but if the home, it's all situational. And if the home's vacant, obviously, maybe you don't need to do this. But I'm going through for a pre-photo walk through so I can go through and make sure everything is good. And if there's any tweaks, then we have 2 days to fix it still. On January 31st is photo day, which is a big day for me now. It didn't used to be. My process definitely has changed, which we'll talk about when I get to the marketing, because I used to, sometimes I wouldn't even go to the walkthrough when I was listing from afar, and I would have my listing coordinator go and do essentially everything that I just talked about with getting the home ready. And then for photo day, why would I go? I just send my photographer. They'll be fine. And then from there, like, my listing coordinator would do all of the back end. So this is much more hands-on this time around, and I'm going to leverage out pieces as I go, but I'm just living through every step of it to get my feet wet again. But yeah, anyway, so photo day is going to be much more than just photos. And then we have coming soon on Thursday, February 6th, we have live the following week. And then no showings, completely blocked up into the open house on February 15th in that afternoon. So drive hype through that entire period, which I will talk about in my marketing piece. So that way there's mass action on that open house. So that's the schedule. And then their find and upload list. This is basically their homework. I asked for, this is something that you guys can do. Think through that property and think through all the questions that a buyer might ask or information that the buyer might want. And that is your collect list before even going live, because I know, oh my God, I can hear you in my head. It's a buyer beware state. Like, what's the buyer's state? And they're going to collect that information anyway. Y'all, if you want something to close, if you want something to happen in the universe, putting in the legwork to make it easy on everyone else is going to substantially increase the likelihood of success. And it's going to make you look like you have your shit together. Every agent who sees, like, oh, wow, she's uploaded everything into the MLS that I could ever want. The copy of the survey, where the septic tank is, the utility lines, like warranties that would convey, servicing that they have done, the costs, the companies of that servicing. Oh, it's on a private road. She's already uploaded the maintenance agreement. Y'all are listening and you're thinking I'm crazy. I know you fucking are. But this is also one of the reasons why my virtual assistant does help with a lot of this. But so this is to bring it back. I asked the sellers to export the past 12 months of Airbnb income, like for all of their listings, total earnings, performance, because who's going to buy this property? Someone who's probably interested in an Airbnb. And so they're going to ask these questions. I want to have them on hand now and have all our shit together up front. Also, list of improvements and renovations. Y'all, if you're not making like a property highlight sheet for your listing, I feel like you're fucking missing out. You need to do a property highlight sheet. So when people, which I'll show you the one for this one, maybe today, maybe not today, but when you're looking at the MLS and there's like, you know, all the little blocks are checked, which is totally fine. And you have your marketing remarks, which has, you know, a limited amount of characters, and it's all written in like fucking like narrative form. I think that it's really helpful to have a sheet that is all of, and I'll just, you know what? I'll show you an example. So this is what I mean, which I'll probably go into in detail in the future, but summary of the property, outline of the home. This is more extensive because it's such a unique situation, but it's a good example. You're going to have the summary, you're going to have the details about the home, both homes, workshop, but then other things, this is like the land, if it is on acreage, or the location. So these are things that you're not going to fit all of this into your marketing remarks. And it's really helpful for someone to be like, oh my God, wow. So the location, although it's in this city, it's actually only 10 minutes from the city limits, or it's 20 minutes from fucking Buc-ee's. Everyone loves Buc-ee's. Ali, have you ever been to Buc-ee's?
No, I haven't, but I've heard, is it like Wawa? Is like,
there is no comparison, honestly.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my.
It is, Buc-ee's is like an amusement park and a gas station. It can be kind of like a Wawa's, but also you can do like your back to school shopping, your whole house, you know, shopping, renovation, you know, grocery shopping, everything at Buc-ee's. It's amazing.
Wow. So, I love Buc-ee's now.
You do. You do love Buc-ee's. But anyway, we'll talk about this more. I like to do a highlight sheet so that way I can upload it into the MLS along with other documents. Because the other thing too, you want the buyer's agent to have as easy as possible to convey to their client all of the highlights about your property. And one of the things on the highlight sheets, which I don't have yet from these clients, which is why it's not on there, but is the list of improvements, because you're not going to necessarily have that all jammed into the little remark section of your MLS cut sheet. But if there's a buyer's agent who's showing the property tomorrow and they're like going through the documents, they pull it up and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then they have it right there as they're walking through, and they'll be like, actually, guys, this roof was replaced 2 years ago. It's a brand new water heater. They just had these countertops installed. And how much better does your listing now sound as you're walking through the house? Then there's no way that the buyer would have ever known that unless one of you took the time and maybe like went through line by line on the seller's disclosure, maybe. But if you have that on a highlight sheet, it's just like, what can you do to increase the likelihood of your property selling fast and for fucking top dollar? That's how you get your money. Like, that's how you earn your fucking commission as a listing agent, in my opinion.
100%. And so many people don't do this. You could put this, literally, it could be a 1-page laminated, or you could put like several pages on the kitchen countertop. So that way, any single buyer agent that comes through, they can make themselves sound better. You can put on the showing time notes. You can put on the Supra notes, like literally any single time you can shove it in their face. Like, hey, by the way, this applies to every single property. Like, at some point, every single person has done something, even if they didn't do it. You can at least have the highlighted information of roof 2024, HVAC 2021. So it's like, I'm working with a couple of buyers now, and the amount of times that we've seen properties where the listing agent after the fact is saying, hey, how'd the showing go? It showed okay. Oh, well, did you know that there was XYZ 1, 2, 3? No, you didn't, because you didn't say, like, right. It is so, if you had uploaded a simple 1-page document into the document section of the MLS, I could have emailed that to them. But now it's too late because my buyer has already formed an opinion.
Right, exactly.
We're moving on to the next. Bye-bye.
Dude. Yeah, so true. Yeah, that's like if you take one thing out of all of this so far, do a fucking highlight sheet. But okay, what else with find and upload? We talked about improvements. So that is what you do after your appointment. You go through, you do all of your homework, you have the checklist, you have the schedule, you have the seller homework, and you email it over to them. Also, group chat, of course, and be friendly. You don't just need to talk to them, when you need something from them. It's kind of like your nurture process doesn't stop. You still want to be showing them love and attention and, I'm still here. I'm still thinking of you every bit of along the way. You know what I mean? So while you are working on this and you come back from your appointment, I like to have my virtual assistant also get started on a couple things eventually. Basically, I CC or BCC her on everything at this point in time for her to pull out, oh, that's part of my lane, that's part of my lane. But also she can get started on saving all of these documents to the public records file. This is just, anything that she can pull online that, again, the buyer might want, like the HOA, condo docs, covenants. Is it on a flood zone? What are the schools? Like, this is all of that basic research that I just like her to have. I don't want to actually do that, trash pickup day, etc. And if you haven't already got the listing paperwork signed, you can also make sure that is prepped and ready to send out. Get started on SkySlope, which I have not been in. SkySlope can be whatever. That's EXP. We were just talking about EXP. I think different firms have different things, but it's like their back end transaction system to make sure your firm knows what's going on, and then eventually you get paid. Yeah, that's probably it for now. We'll probably go. Oh, I also have the VA start prepping the MLS, but that's where we can start again next time. Okay. That is all we have for today. This was part 3 of the listing process, step by step. And it's been lovely hanging out with all of you today. Ali, do you have anything?
Nothing. This has been great. I'm excited for next week's where we're going to get into the coming soon and building the
marketing shit. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. Guys, next time we're going to focus on marketing. And if I was my 2018 version, what I'm going to talk about next week would have blown my fucking mind. So come and hang out with us. Okay. Be a bro and share this show.